Chapter 303. It's mainly because of their mounts. The gray wolf's skin is as hard as iron, and it's extremely ferocious. The cyan scale horse is no match for it. Many of the soldiers who died in the battle were killed by the gray wolves. Huang explained. How about the gray wolves? How many did we catch? Lu Ming asked. Not many. These gray wolves have been tamed by the Moon Empire with a secret method. They won't surrender and will only fight to the death. We barely caught 100, but we can't use them. Huang explained. Lu Ming frowned. Let's go. After a while, Lu Ming led the army and continued their journey. There was nothing to think about. Lu Ming didn't believe that the Moon Empire's army was as elite as the Grey Wolf army. If they were all elites like that, the Burning Sun Empire would have been destroyed long ago. There shouldn't be a lot of such elite troops. The army set out and rushed towards the Moon City. At this moment, the Moon City might be experiencing a great battle. They had to rush over to help. They guessed right. The Moon City was indeed in a fierce battle. Kill! To the north of the Moon City was a boundless grassland. On the grassland, two armies were fighting fiercely. On one side was the Mountain Suppression Army. There were 80,000 of them. They were all cavalry and looked as majestic as a mountain. On the other side was the Moon Army. There were only 50,000 of them. However, there was one army that was particularly eye-catching. Because every cavalry's mount was a Blood Moon Demonic Tiger. This was the Moon Empire's Blood Moon Demonic Tiger army. They were even stronger than the Grey Wolf army. This Blood Moon Demonic Tiger army had 10,000 people. The Moon Empire used the 10,000 Blood Moon Demonic Tiger army as the vanguard. Together with 40,000 ordinary cavalry, they fought fiercely against the Mountain Suppression Army. More than 100,000 cavalry galloped on the grassland. The earth trembled. A powerful and terrifying aura gathered and stirred up the clouds. The clouds in the sky exploded and were swept away. It was impossible for them to gather. Kill! Shouts shook the heavens and the earth. The two armies collided fiercely. Suddenly, a murderous aura filled the sky. All kinds of true chi surged. Screams rose and fell. The smell of blood filled the air. Clang! Clang! The sound of steel clashing resounded through the grassland. A moment later, the two steel armies charged past, leaving behind a ground full of corpses. Change direction, quick! At the front of the Zhenyu army, a man in his 50s roared. He was tall and sturdy, and his hair and beard were all over the place. He looked very similar to Myongcheng. He was the general of the Zhenyu army, the father of the three Myongcheng siblings, Ming Meng. Dong! Dong! The 80,000-strong army, under Ming Meng's lead, drew a huge arc on the grassland and quickly turned around. On the other side, the Moon Empire's army also turned around under the leadership of the generals. The two armies faced each other again. Armor-piercing arrow, release! Ming Meng roared. Nearly 80,000 cavalrymen took down the armor-piercing bows on their mounts and shot arrows. Swoosh swoosh, a dense rain of armor-piercing arrows shot toward the Moon army, covering the sky and covering the earth. Fire! The Moon Empire also shot out arrows that blotted out the sky. After shooting out the armor-piercing arrows, the two armies charged towards each other. Ah ah, as the arrows fell, the screams of the people and the roars of the mounts blended together. People fell off their mounts and were constantly shot to death. These were armor-piercing arrows, which could pierce through thick armor and were very powerful. If an ordinary person was shot by one of these arrows, his entire body would directly explode. Tens of thousands of people shot arrows at the same time. Even a martial arts grandmaster expert would not dare to be careless. If he was careless, his genuine chi would be exhausted by the dense armor-piercing arrows. Therefore, ordinary martial arts grandmasters were not invincible in the face of such a large army. Once the army formed a battle formation, it was not impossible to kill a martial arts grandmaster expert. This kind of thing happened from time to time in history. After shooting a round of armor-piercing arrows, the two armies collided again. The generals of the two armies bore the brunt of the collision. Kill! Ming Meng roared. He held a 2-meter-long broadsword in his hand and slashed toward the general of the enemy. It seemed as if the sky and earth were about to be split open. Ming Meng's cultivation had reached the peak of martial arts Grandmaster Realm LV6 and he was a general of hundreds of battles. His combat strength was incomparably powerful. However, the general of the Moon Empire was no weaker than him. He was also at the peak of martial arts Grandmaster Realm LV6 and the long spear in his hand shook the space as he waved it. Clang! The two of them exchanged blows and formed a strong storm. The cavalry near them were directly swept up by the storm and flew hundreds of meters away. Ha ha ha, Ming Meng, today, I will definitely destroy your mountain suppression army and flatten Full Moon City. The general of the enemy laughed loudly. You've been saying this every day. Is there any use? Ming Meng snorted coldly. However, he had a bad feeling in his heart. The Grey Wolf army of the Moon Empire had not appeared, which made Ming Meng feel uneasy. Although there were only 10,000 Grey Wolf army, their combat strength was too strong and he could not afford to be careless. Although he had left 20,000 mountain suppression army soldiers to defend Full Moon City, he was still not confident. Huh. The general of the enemy laughed and exchanged a few blows with Ming Meng. Hundreds of thousands of soldiers charged past, leaving behind a sea of corpses. Roar! Roar! Tiger roars sounded. The 10,000 bloody moon demonic tiger army of the Moon Empire was extremely powerful. Each time, they could bite off a piece of the mountain suppression army's cavalry formation. After a few clashes, the mountain suppression army lost thousands of cavalry. Ming Meng's heart was bleeding. The Jinhua army was a powerful army that he had spent decades to create. It was one of the few powerful armies of the royal family. Losing even one of them would make Ming Meng's heart ache. Kill! Ming Meng's hair and beard were as fierce as a lion. Rumble! At this moment, a violent roar came from the direction of Full Moon City. The earth was faintly shaking. Ming Meng's expression changed greatly. They're finally here. The general of the enemy laughed loudly. The Grey Wolf Army, it's the Grey Wolf Army. You made the Grey Wolf Army take a detour from Mount Han to sneak attack Full Moon City. Ming Meng's expression changed greatly as he roared angrily. Haha, that's right. However, it's too late now. How can the 20,000 soldiers you left behind be a match for the Grey Wolf Army? The general of the enemy laughed loudly. Ming Meng's expression was extremely gloomy. At this moment, he was in a dilemma. If he led the army back to help, the local army would definitely chase after them from behind. At that time, the Grey Wolf Army would attack them head-on. The mountain suppression army would be in danger if they were attacked from both sides. However, if he didn't go back to help, could Full Moon City withstand the attack of the Grey Wolf Army? Rumble! The shaking sound was getting closer and closer. Ming Meng's expression became more and more unsightly, while the general of the Moon Empire laughed more and more happily. Ha, today, I will definitely flatten Full Moon City and then lead the army to attack the imperial capital of the Burning Sun Empire. What's going on? The general of the Moon Empire laughed arrogantly and happily at first, but his expression immediately changed. Chapter 304. Amidst the smoke and dust, it could be seen that this army was not riding ash wolves, but strong green scale horses. The army of the Burning Sun Empire? The eyes of the general of the Moon Empire widened in disbelief. How could the army of the Burning Sun Empire appear here? Where is the Grey Wolf Cavalry? Where did they go? This new army was naturally Lu Ming's army. Kill! Lu Ming took the lead, holding his spear with one hand and emitting a murderous aura. The army of 18,000 followed closely behind, stabbing at the army of the Moon Empire like a sharp knife. Kill! Soldiers of the Mountain Army, follow me and kill the bastards of the Moon Empire. How could Ming Meng miss such an opportunity? He immediately roared and his voice spread across the battlefield. Kill! 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 All the soldiers of the mountain army roared and followed Ming Meng to charge at the army of the Yin Moon Empire. The general of the Yin Moon Empire looked terrible. He shouted, "There are not many enemies, less than 20,000 of them. We are all experienced elites. 10,000 of us are enough to block them." Immediately, 10,000 cavalrymen of the Yin Moon Empire charged at Lu Ming's army. "Remember, block them. When the Grey Wolf cavalry arrives, we can kill them all." The general of the Yin Moon Empire shouted. His voice spread across the battlefield to boost the morale. "Ha ha ha, you must be talking about the Grey Wolf cavalry." Lu Ming laughed. He waved his hand, and a storage ring flew forward. Then, the storage ring glowed, and wolf and human heads fell to the ground. "Those are the heads of the Grey Wolf cavalry. So many. Could it be that the Grey Wolf cavalry has all been killed?" The army of the Yin Moon Empire was in an uproar. "The 10,000 Grey Wolf cavalry have all been killed by us. Don't expect them to come back." At the same time, he dashed toward the other party at high speed. "Impossible!" The general of the Yin Moon Empire shouted. He could not believe that 10,000 Grey Wolf cavalry had been killed. Lu Ming's words made the army of the Yin Moon Empire very suspicious. Some soldiers did not hold their weapons as hard as before. "Kill!" At this moment, the 18,000 soldiers led by Lu Ming had already clashed with the 10,000 enemy soldiers. Deceiving the masses with lies, "Kill!" The leader of the other party was a burly man in the 5th martial ancestor realm. As he shouted, he slashed at Lu Ming with his saber. "Die!" Lu Ming roared and thrust out his long spear. The saber light shattered, and the long spear directly pierced through the opponent's throat. Bang! The spear light did not stop, continuously killing more than a dozen people behind it before it dissipated. Lu Ming rode the azure-scaled horse and rushed past. Behind him, Xian Yanqing, golden-eyed blood zombie, Hua Ying, Gao Li, and the others followed closely behind, leading an army of 18,000. Kill! Led by Lu Ming, the Blazing Sun army immediately tore a large hole in the enemy's formation. The 10,000 soldiers of the Yin Moon Empire were not as powerful as the Grey Wolf army. Their strength was on par with Lu Ming's army. Naturally, they could not block Lu Ming's attack. Moreover, the morale of the Yin Moon Empire was low, and they had fewer soldiers. They were no match for the Blazing Sun army at all. In a short while, they were scattered. On the other side, Ming Meng led the mountain army to entangle the enemy and gain the upper hand. "Everyone, move out!" Ming Meng's long roar echoed in Full Moon City. Rumble! Suddenly, a large army rushed out of Full Moon City and charged toward them. It was the 20,000 soldiers that Ming Meng had left behind to guard the city. The Yin Moon Empire was besieged and their morale was even lower. Large numbers of soldiers were killed by the Blazing Sun Empire. "Retreat, retreat!" The general of the Yin Moon Empire shouted anxiously. He knew that they were going to lose today. If this continued, they would be completely wiped out. The general of the Yin Moon Empire led the powerful Crimson Moon Demonic Tiger army and charged forward. Immediately, a gap was created in the mountain army led by Ming Meng. "Charge out!" The Crimson Moon Demonic Tiger army led the way, and the other armies followed behind. The army that was fighting with Lu Ming and the rest threw away their helmets and armor and ran for their lives. "Kill!" Lu Ming shouted and chased after them. On the other side, Ming Meng led the mountain army to chase after them. The army was defeated like a landslide. Along the way, the Yin Moon Empire left behind large numbers of corpses. Half an hour later, Lu Ming and the others retreated. In this battle, only about 20,000 of the Yin Moon Empire's 50,000 soldiers escaped. 30,000 died in battle. The mountain army seized countless materials. It was a great victory. An hour later, the two armies met on the grassland outside Full Moon City. "Dad!" Dad! Myeongchang and his siblings rushed toward Ming Meng. Why didn't you three cultivate in the imperial capital? Why did you come back? Ming Meng scolded with a straight face. Pearl stuck out her tongue and didn't say anything. Ming Feng giggled and said, Father, when we heard that the Inua army was besieging Full Moon City, we were so anxious. As your sons, how could we not fight the enemy together with you? Naturally, we came back to be with you. Well, you are a little filial. Ming Meng's face became a little better, and he nodded. Also, this time, the imperial family sent an army to support us. The leader is Tianyun, so we naturally came back together to introduce him to you. Ming Peak said again. Tianyun? Is that the Tianyun who killed Qiu Chonglai, the genius of the Shifang sword sect? Where is he? Hurry up and introduce him to me. Ming Meng was shocked when he heard Tianyun's name, and he hurriedly said. Tianyun greets General Ming. At this time, Lu Ming walked up and cupped his fists. You are Tianyun. Ha, you are really a dragon among men. I admire you. Ming Meng laughed and cupped his fists politely. General Ming, you are too polite. This time, Tianyun came here to fight against the Yin Moon Empire with you. If there is anything I don't understand, I would like to seek your advice. Lu Ming said politely. I don't deserve your advice. As soon as you came, you wiped out the Yin Moon Empire's Grey Wolf army and defeated the Yin Moon Empire's army. I should learn from you. Also, don't call me General. Call me Brother Ming. Huh. Ming Meng said very heroically. Brother Ming. Lu Ming's face was strange, and he glanced at Myeongchang and the others. Myeongchang, Pearl, and Ming Peak's faces stiffened, and they were dumbfounded. Lu Ming called Lu Ming Brother Ming. Then, wouldn't they be a generation younger than Lu Ming? What should they call Lu Ming? Uncle? At the thought of this, the three of them were a little mad. Huh, okay, then I will call you Brother Ming. Lu Ming agreed unkindly, and he laughed heartily. Myeongchang and his siblings were the complete opposite. Each of them had a bitter face, and they objected in their hearts. Chapter 305. For the next 3 days, there was no movement from the Yin Moon Empire's army. Full Moon City was peaceful. To the north of Full Moon City was the direction of the Yin Moon Empire. To the west was a boundless plateau. The terrain of this plateau was complicated. There were boundless grasslands, but there were also clusters of mountains and ridges. Ta! Ta! The earth shook. Lu Ming led Xian Yanxing, Hua Ying, and a few hundred others. Ming Meng led 3,000 guards and galloped on the plateau. This plateau was usually used as a training ground for the mountain army. There were many demonic beasts roaring in groups. Roar! Lu Ming saw a group of hundreds of ferocious lions. Their bodies were shining in gold. When they saw Lu Ming's army, they roared and ran into the distance. Soon, he saw a group of several thousand 2-meter-tall black bulls galloping on the grassland. There are many demonic beasts on this plateau. If we can capture them and form an army, how strong will we be? Lu Ming laughed while riding on the green scale horse. Little brother Tianyun, you're right. However, the demonic beasts on this plateau are wild and untamed. Moreover, there aren't many of them of the same species. It's too difficult to form an army of tens of thousands of people. If we use different species, it'll be difficult to train them together and their combat strength won't be high. Ming Meng explained with a smile. Lu Ming nodded. He also understood. For example, the wild lions were not inferior to the blood moon demonic tiger. Unfortunately, it was difficult to capture more than 10,000 of them. Moreover, it was extremely difficult to tame these wild demonic beasts. The group galloped on the grassland. Along the way, they saw all kinds of demonic beasts. Some moved alone while others moved in groups. Roar! Suddenly, a roar came from the front. A murderous aura filled the air. Ta! Ta! Then, they heard a group of wild lions, giant bears, and other demonic beasts galloping toward them. All of the demonic beasts' eyes were filled with panic and fear. Roar! Wolf howls came from behind. Then, Lu Ming and the others saw a dozen blood shadows galloping toward them. Taking a closer look, it wasn't a blood shadow, but a dozen huge wolves. These giant wolves looked extremely strange. Each of them was over 2 meters tall and 4 meters long. Their bodies were blood red and covered with blood red scales. Even their legs were covered with scales. Only the fiery red hair on his neck looked like a ball of flame. Roar! A berserk lion was being chased by a giant wolf. It was unable to resist at all and was sent flying with a swipe of its paw. Then, the berserk lion's neck was bitten off. What a mighty giant wolf, what powerful strength! Lu Ming's eyes flashed as he exclaimed in admiration. These are crimson blood-scaled wolves. The weakest of these crimson blood-scaled wolves is equivalent to a 7th-layer martial grandmaster. There are even 2 1st-layer martial ancestor. They definitely came from the depths of the plateau. Ming Meng exclaimed in surprise. Roar! Roar! At this moment, when the demonic beasts in front saw Lu Ming and the others, they all took a detour and fled far away. However, the crimson blood-scaled wolves stopped in front of Lu Ming and the others. They looked at Lu Ming and the others ferociously and kept howling. They had no intention of running away. These crimson blood-scaled wolves are definitely the best mounts. Lu Ming looked at the crimson blood-scaled wolves with interest and said, "That's right. These crimson blood-scaled wolves are said to have the bloodline of a flood dragon. Their bodies are invulnerable and they run like the wind. They are definitely the best mounts. If you have an army of tens of thousands of crimson blood-scaled wolves, you will be invincible. Unfortunately, perhaps the crimson blood-scaled wolves really do have the bloodline of a flood dragon. They are extremely arrogant and unruly. It is extremely difficult to tame them. Even if you use strength to suppress them, they would rather die than submit. The Moon Empire also covets the crimson blood-scaled wolves, but they have been helpless for so many years." Ming Meng explained. Oh? Lu Ming was a little disappointed. He originally wanted to build a strong army. Humph, it's just a beast. I don't believe that I can't tame it. Huang snorted and said unwillingly. He then rushed out and pounced on the crimson blood-scaled wolves. Roar! The crimson blood-scaled wolves roared and pounced on Huang to counterattack. Get lost! Huang shouted and threw out a few punches. Bang! Bang! Some of the Martial Master Realm crimson blood-scaled wolves were sent flying. They rolled on the ground for a few rounds before they got up and shook off the mud on their bodies. They were fine. As for the 2 Martial Ancestor Realm LV1 demonic beasts, they were only pushed back a few steps. On the other hand, Hua Ying's body swayed a little. What a strong force! Let's see if I can't tame you. Hua Ying shouted and rushed forward, throwing out punches. Hua Ying's cultivation was high. The crimson blood-scaled wolves were naturally no match for him and were sent flying. Hua Ying targeted a Martial Ancestor Realm LV1 crimson blood-scaled wolf and rode on it to tame it. Roar! The crimson blood-scaled wolf let out an earth-shattering roar as if its dignity had been insulted. It was furious and its body shook and jumped wildly. At the same time, a blazing flame emerged from its body and enveloped Hua Ying. Kneel down! Hua Ying shouted and used all his strength to suppress the crimson blood-scaled wolf. Hua Ying was a Martial Ancestor Realm LV3 Martial Ancestor Realm bloodline. When he used all his strength, it was as if a mountain was pressing on the crimson blood-scaled wolf's back. The crimson blood-scaled wolf kept roaring but it could not resist and was pressed down. However, it did not give in. It kept struggling and roaring, looking extremely ferocious. Give in or I'll kill you! Hua Ying shouted. Roar! The crimson blood-scaled wolf responded to him with a roar. Damn it! Hua Ying continued to suppress it. After a while, Huaying was sweating profusely, but the crimson blood-scaled wolf still did not give in. It's really untamed. Lu Ming sighed. At the same time, he felt that it was a pity. The crimson blood-scaled wolves were not too strong. As long as there were some of them who were equivalent to martial masters, they could form an army and it would be terrifying. Roar! At this moment, there was an earth-shattering roar. 2 rays of bloody light came from afar at an incredible speed. In a few breaths, they were in front of Huaying. One of them pounced on Huaying. Huaying was shocked and threw out a punch. Boom! With a loud bang, Huaying's body was pushed back a dozen meters. At this moment, he could see clearly that there were 2 more crimson blood-scaled wolves. These 2 crimson blood-scaled wolves were extremely majestic and bigger than the other crimson blood-scaled wolves. They are equivalent to Martial Ancestor Realm LV3. Lu Ming muttered. What's going on? What's going on today? Why are there so many Martial Ancestor Realm crimson blood-scaled wolves? Normally, they would hide in the depths of the plateau. Why are there so many of them today? Ming Meng was extremely surprised. Roar! The 2 Martial Ancestor Realm LV3 crimson blood-scaled wolves roared and stared at Lu Ming and the others. Then, with a roar, they turned and ran towards the plateau. The other crimson blood-scaled wolves followed closely behind. Lu Ming, how about we make a bet? Chapter 306. A bet? Lu Ming was stunned. That's right. Let's bet with these 2 crimson blood-scale wolves. These 2 crimson blood-scale wolves are at the 3rd level of the Martial Ancestor Realm. Let's see who can tame them first. Whoever tames them first wins. The loser has to agree to a condition of the winner. Do you dare to bet with me? Xian Yanqing turned her eyes and said. Hearing this, the surrounding people looked at the 2 of them with great interest. Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing stood together like a golden couple. Since the imperial capital, Xian Yanqing had been following Lu Ming. Naturally, the others thought that the 2 of them had a special relationship. Now that Xian Yanqing proposed a bet with Lu Ming, the others naturally thought that it was a flirting between the 2 of them. By the side, Ming Zhu looked at the peerless Xian Yanqing and sighed in her heart. She thought that perhaps only a beauty like Xian Yanqing was worthy of Lu Ming. The distance between her and Lu Ming was too far. In the future, it would only grow further. After sighing, Pearl hid her thoughts in the bottom of her heart. She smiled and looked at Lu Ming. Why wouldn't I? Lu Ming said with a smile. All right, let's begin. Xian Yanqing revealed a cunning look. She moved and turned into a ray of light, chasing after the crimson blood-scale wolves. Lu Ming smiled. Similarly, his figure moved and he stepped into the air. Let's go and have a look. Ming Meng and the others chased after them on horseback. However, after a while, they could no longer see Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing. Forget it, let's wait for them here. Ming Meng said. The others nodded and waited. The crimson blood-scale wolves ran at a terrifying speed on the grassland. However, with Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing chasing after them, they caught up in a short while. Whoosh! With a slight movement, Xian Yanqing lunged at a 3rd-layer Martial Ancestor Realm crimson blood-scaled wolf. Roar! That crimson blood-scale wolf roared, opened its mouth, and actually spat out a pillar of fire, rushing towards Xian Yanqing. However, Xian Yanqing waved his hand and sent out a palm strike. The fire pillar was dispersed, and Xian Yanqing easily stepped on the back of the crimson blood-scale wolf. Roar! The crimson blood-scale wolf suddenly went crazy, and issued a furious roar. Its body crazily swung, and it wanted to throw Xian Yanqing off. But Xian Yanqing's true qi burst forth, forming a terrifying pressure, suppressing the crimson blood-scale wolf. However, the crimson blood-scale wolf howled and refused to submit. On the other side, Lu Ming was also standing on the back of the crimson blood-scale wolf, using his martial arts to suppress it. But at the same time, the Crimson Blood Scale Wolf went crazy and refused to submit. Actually, it was not difficult for Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing to kill these two Crimson Blood Scale Wolves. It was very simple. However, they did not want to kill them, but to tame them. In this way, they could not use too much strength, or else they would kill the Crimson Blood Scale Wolves in an instant. They could only use an appropriate amount of strength to suppress the Crimson Blood Scale Wolves and wear down their ferocious qi. Only then could they slowly tame them. This was a process of exhaustion. Roar! Roar! The two third-layer martial ancestor realm Crimson Blood Scale Wolves kept howling and leaping, trying to throw Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing off. However, the two of them stood firmly on the backs of the Crimson Blood Scale Wolves. Just like this, the two Crimson Blood Scale Wolves abandoned the other Crimson Blood Scale Wolves and ran towards the depths of the plateau while howling. The Crimson Blood Scale Wolves were too fast, and they passed by mountains and rivers as if they were flat ground. Soon, they had crossed 1,000 miles. Here, the grassland had disappeared and was replaced by endless plateaus and mountains. The two Crimson Blood Scale Wolves kept howling and leaping through the forest. Soon, they had crossed another 1,000 miles into the plateau. Roar! Roar! Suddenly, the howls of wolves echoed from afar, echoing the howls of the two Crimson Blood Scale Wolves. Hearing the howls of the wolves around them, the two Crimson Blood Scale Wolves howled even louder, as if they had been injected with chicken blood. Roar! Roar! The howls of the wolves became denser and came from all directions. Then, one after another, tall and majestic figures appeared from all directions. Crimson Blood Scale Wolves. Crimson Blood Scale Wolves appeared all around them. The Crimson Blood Scale Wolves looked at Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing with murderous intent and howled continuously. There are so many Crimson Blood Scale Wolves. Is this a wolf den? Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat. The howls of the wolves were endless. Lu Ming looked around and realized that most of the Crimson Blood Scale Wolves were second-grade demonic beasts, which were equivalent to martial masters. Only a small portion of them were third-grade demonic beasts. There are so many Crimson Blood Scale Wolves. If we used them as mounts and formed an army, how powerful would that be? Lu Ming's heart could not help but burn with passion. Roar! Roar! Suddenly, two howls of the wolves were heard. These two howls were earth-shattering and pierced through the clouds. After these two howls, the other Crimson Blood Scale Wolves in all directions quieted down, not a single sound was heard. Within a radius of 10 miles, the other demonic beasts did not even dare to breathe loudly. It was incomparably silent. That was, in the next moment, Lu Ming saw two Crimson Blood Scale Wolves walking out from the tallest mountain peak. These two Crimson Blood Scale Wolves were extremely tall and sturdy. They were at least 3 meters tall, and their bodies were covered with fiery red scales that seemed to be polished from fiery jade. They were sparkling and translucent, as if there were traces of flames jumping out from them. An extremely powerful aura burst out from the two Crimson Blood Scale Wolves. Peak 6th grade demonic beasts. They are equivalent to peak 6th grade martial ancestor realm. Lu Ming's eyes suddenly moved. Woo woo! At this moment, the other Crimson Blood Scale Wolves whimpered and prostrated themselves, as if they were welcoming the arrival of their king. Could these two Crimson Blood Scale Wolves be the wolf kings of this pack? Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat as he thought of this possibility. Judging from the situation, it should not be wrong. Roar! Roar! The two Crimson Blood Scale Wolves suddenly roared and leaped into the air, pouncing toward Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing. Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing did not dare to be careless. They unleashed their full strength and met the wolves head-on. Boom! Boom! With two loud bangs, Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing were both sent flying. What a strong power! Although the Crimson Blood Wolf King is only a Class 6 LV4 demonic beast, its combat strength is not comparable to an ordinary Class 6 LV4 demonic beast. It is at least a Class 7 LV4 demonic beast. Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat. Roar! Roar! The two crimson blood scale wolf kings roared and pounced toward Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing. The two of them engaged in a fierce battle. However, Xian Yanqing was at a disadvantage as soon as the battle began. He was no match for the wolves. Lu Ming was slightly better, but he was also at a disadvantage. With Lu Ming's current combat strength, he could easily defeat a normal 6th-grade martial ancestor realm martial artist. However, he was no match for a 7th-grade martial ancestor realm martial artist. Bang! Bang! After a few moves, Lu Ming's muscles trembled and he was forced to retreat. He was at a disadvantage. Bang! On the other side, Xian Yanqing was sent flying and landed beside Lu Ming, blood flowing from the corner of his mouth. However, she did not make a sound and did not escape. It seemed that she would not leave if Lu Ming did not leave. She was very stubborn. Roar! Chapter 307. Shao Qing, why don't we leave this place first? Lu Ming said. With the two wolf kings here, it was impossible for them to tame the crimson blood-scaled wolf today. No, I don't believe that I can't tame it. Xian Yanqing said stubbornly. Lu Ming was speechless. This girl is throwing a tantrum again. It's just a fake wolf king. Let's see if they dare to be arrogant in front of the real wolf king. Xian Yanqing snorted and quickly formed a seal with both hands. Then, layers of black light emitted from Xian Yanqing's body. Slowly, the black light formed a giant silver wolf in the air. Moonhowl Wolf. Lu Ming could not help but exclaim. Lu Ming was very familiar with this giant silver wolf. Back in the Dongyi tribe's ancestral remains, Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing each obtained half of the Moonhowl Wolf's beast soul. Later on, in the Battle of White Tiger Hall, Lu Ming merged with half of the Beast King's soul and killed Lu Yunqiong and Duan Mulin. He was very familiar with this giant silver wolf. He did not expect Xian Yanqing to condense the Moonhowl Wolf at this moment. However, Lu Ming could tell that it was not a beast soul, but something that had been condensed. It was a manifestation of a cultivation technique. The Moonhowl Wolf's aura had weakened significantly. Awo! The Moonhowl Wolf let out an earth-shattering howl and a supreme aura spread out. Although it was only half of a Moonhowl Wolf and had been condensed, the Moonhowl Wolf was a real beast king when it was alive. The aura of a superior being was extremely powerful. Woo-woo, countless crimson blood-scaled wolves let out woo-woo-woo sounds. They lowered their heads and looked at the Moonhowl Wolf in the air in awe. The Moonhowl Wolf was silver and white. It stood in the air, looking mighty and powerful as it howled continuously. Slowly, some of the level 4 crimson blood-scaled wolves also lowered their heads. Roar! Roar! However, the two crimson blood-scaled wolf kings continued to howl as they looked at the Moonhowl Wolf in the sky. Although they were afraid, they did not submit. Furthermore, an ominous glint flashed in his eyes, as if he would pounce on Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing at any moment. It seems like the two wolf kings are very difficult to tame. Lu Ming thought. Roar! The Moonhowl Wolf in the air howled at the sky, its entire body emitting a dazzling silver light. At that moment, Lu Ming's body also emitted a silver glow. Then, the silver glow condensed into a huge moon-howling wolf in the sky. What happened? Lu Ming was shocked. Could it be that the remnant of the Moonhowl Heavenly Wolf that remained in my body after I fused with the soul of the Moonhowl Heavenly Wolf? Now, it has been activated by the other half of the Moonhowl Heavenly Wolf in Xian Yanqing, causing it to appear. Lu Ming's mind raced as he thought of this. This was the only explanation that made sense. The Moonhowl Wolf condensed on Lu Ming's body howled at the sky, emitting a mighty aura. The rest of the crimson blood-scaled wolves were lying on the ground. Some of the low-level ones were even trembling. Even a few level 4 crimson blood-scaled wolves were lying on the ground, not daring to move. Only the two crimson blood-scaled wolf kings continued to howl. However, a trace of fear finally appeared in their eyes. At that moment, the Moonhowl Wolf above Xian Yinqing's head and the Moonhowl Wolf above Lu Ming's head merged into an even larger Moonhowl Wolf. Roar! The Moonhowl Wolf howled and emitted an extremely powerful kingly aura. It was an aura that was innate to the wolf tribe. It was superior and could not be provoked. The two crimson blood-scaled wolf kings began to tremble, their eyes filled with fear. The Moonhowl Wolf stood in the air, looking down at the two crimson blood-scaled wolf kings. There seemed to be a hint of displeasure in its eyes. Woo-woo, the two crimson blood-scaled wolf kings were finally afraid. They crawled on the ground and whimpered like two domestic puppies. Tamed? Lu Ming was overjoyed. Roar! The moon-howling heavenly wolf let out an angry roar. The two crimson blood-scaled wolf kings suddenly trembled and actually stood up shakily. They crawled to Lu Ming and Xian Yinqing's side and lay down obediently. It's true. Lu Ming muttered. He was overjoyed. He moved and rode on the back of one of the crimson blood-scaled wolf kings. The crimson blood-scaled wolf king did not resist and behaved obediently. On the other side, Xian Yinqing also rode on the other crimson blood-scaled wolf king. That one was also obedient. Lu Ming took a glance and discovered that Xian Yinqing's wolf was a female while Lu Ming's wolf was a male. It was no wonder there were two wolf kings. Ha, Shao Qing, a male and a female. They make a pair, just like you and me. Lu Ming laughed. Who's a pair with you? Dream on. Xian Yinqing snorted and rolled his eyes at Lu Ming. Lu Ming grinned. He was just joking and did not take it to heart. At this moment, the Moonhowl wolves howled in the air and turned into two rays of light again. They fell into Lu Ming and Xian Yinqing's bodies and disappeared. The powerful pressure between heaven and earth also disappeared. Roar! The two crimson blood-scaled wolf kings growled and stood up. However, they did not go crazy and did not resist. They seemed to have been completely tamed. Maybe, Xian Yinqing and I still have the aura of the Moonhowl wolves on us. That's why we can tame these two wolf kings. Lu Ming guessed. He patted the crimson blood-scaled wolf king and said, "Call all your subordinates and follow me." Roar! Roar! The two crimson blood-scaled wolf kings were very obedient. They let out two long howls that spread for dozens of miles. The other crimson blood-scaled wolves howled and gathered from all directions. In the end, the surroundings were densely packed with crimson blood-scaled wolves. There were so many of them that one could not see the end of it. So many. Lu Ming was stunned. Then, he was overjoyed. Lu Ming took a closer look and discovered that there were more than 8,000 crimson blood-scaled wolves all over the mountains. Most of them were LV2 demonic beasts. A small portion were LV3 demonic beasts. There were even dozens of LV4 demonic beasts. LV4 demonic beasts were equivalent to martial ancestor realm martial artists. I'm rich, I'm rich. Lu Ming roared in his heart. What are you so happy about? Don't forget that it's all thanks to me that we can tame the crimson blood-scaled wolves. If it were you, you would have run away, coward. Xian Yinqing curled his lips and said disdainfully. Yes, yes, it's all thanks to you. Lu Ming was in a good mood and did not argue with Xian Yinqing. You lost the bet this time. You won't go back on your word, right? Xian Yinqing said. Hey, I also contributed to the taming of the Wolf King. How can it be considered my loss? Lu Ming said. What contribution? If it wasn't for me, you wouldn't have had the chance to tame the Wolf King. Are you trying to go back on your word? If you go back on your word, I'll spread the news of you going back on your word in the camp. Xian Yinqing gritted his teeth. In the end, Lu Ming could only compromise and agree to Xian Yinqing's condition. What condition? Say it. As long as I can do it, I won't refuse. Lu Ming said. It's not time yet. When the time comes, I'll tell you. Xian Yinqing smiled slyly and rode away on the crimson blood-scaled Wolf King. Lu Ming followed on the Wolf King. Chapter 308. On the grassland 2,000 miles away, Ming Meng, Hua Ying, and the others were waiting anxiously. Why hasn't the general returned after so long? Could something have happened? Gao Li frowned. I don't think so. With the general's cultivation, he should be able to escape even if he can't defeat those below the martial ancestor realm. Hua Ying said. However, there was a worried look in his eyes. Ever since they had pledged allegiance to Lu Ming, they had been thinking for Lu Ming. Ming Meng, Miangcheng, and the others were also anxious as they looked in the direction that Lu Ming and the others had left. Rumble. At that moment, the ground started to shake as if thousands of soldiers and horses were galloping. Ming Meng's face changed and he shouted, "Oh no, there's a large group of demonic beasts coming. This is a beast tide. Listen to my orders, get into formation and prepare for battle." As soon as he finished speaking, the 3,000 guards that Ming Meng had brought with him got into formation and drew their longbows, ready for a bloody battle. Rumble. The shaking became more and more violent as if there were many huge creatures galloping. Ming Meng and the others looked more and more serious. Howl! Howl! At that moment, loud wolf howls came from the depths of the plateau and pierced through the clouds. Oh no, that's the howls of the crimson blood-scaled wolves. Why are there so many of them? Where are Brother Tianyun and the others? Ming Meng shouted. The others were also shocked. They did not know how many crimson blood-scaled wolves there were, but they were sure that they did not have enough people. How could they fight? Retreat, retreat. Let's rush back to Full Moon City first. Ming Meng shouted. Let's go. They turned their horses around and rushed back. Ah! That's the general and Miss Xian Yanqing. Suddenly, a loud shout sounded. It came from a youth in the Star Cluster Hall. What? Ming Meng and the others hurriedly looked in that direction. At the end of the ground, there was a boundless red color. From afar, it looked like a fiery red sunset. Upon closer look, it was not a sunset. It was clearly a crimson blood-scaled wolf with a strong physique. As far as the eye could see, the ground was filled with crimson blood-scaled wolves. They covered the sky and covered the earth as an extremely dense baleful aura filled the air. Some of the more timid people's calves began to tremble. In front of the endless horde of crimson blood-scale wolves, there were two of the tallest crimson blood-scale wolves. There was a person sitting on each of the two scarlet bloods. It was Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing. It's really Brother Tianyun and Miss Xia, but what's going on? Why are they riding on the crimson blood-scale wolves? Ming Meng was dumbfounded. Could it be that General and the others are being chased by crimson blood-scale wolves? Impossible. The two crimson blood-scale wolves they are riding seem to have the strongest aura, but they aren't resisting. Could it be that they have already tamed them? Tamed? That's impossible, right? Hua Ying and some other young experts were discussing among themselves. Roar! Roar! At this moment, the crimson blood-scale wolf king that Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing were riding on let out two roars. Then, the horde of crimson blood-scale wolves gradually slowed down. Finally, they began to walk slowly towards Ming Meng and the others. This is the crimson blood-scale wolf king. Could it be that the crimson blood-scale wolf king has been tamed? How is that possible? Ming Meng's eyes widened and his mouth dropped open in disbelief. Those who were originally from Full Moon City also widened their eyes and mouths as they stared blankly. At this moment, Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing were not far away. Brother Tianyun, you tamed these two crimson blood-scale wolf kings? Ming Meng asked in a daze. Brother Ming Meng, I was lucky to succeed. We chased after the previous two, but we didn't expect to run into the crimson blood-scale wolf king's lair. We were lucky to have tamed these two crimson blood-scale wolf kings, so we asked the wolf king to order all the crimson blood-scale wolves to be brought here. Lu Ming explained. Oh, lucky? Ming Meng's lips were trembling, and one of his hands was tugging at his beard. Until now, he was still in shock, as if he was in a dream. The 3,000 guards he brought were not any better. They all thought they were dreaming, taming the Crimson Blood Scale Wolf King. But no one had ever heard of anyone succeeding. Now, Lu Ming had succeeded as soon as he came, and even brought back a nest of Crimson Blood Scale Wolves. Brother Tianyun is invincible. Ming Peak reacted quickly and shouted. Then, he ran to Lu Ming's side and said, "Brother Tianyun, can you give me a Crimson Blood Scale Wolf as a mount?" After a few days of hesitation, Miangcheng and his siblings decided to be friends with Lu Ming, regardless of how their father and Lu Ming addressed him. Otherwise, they would really have to call him Uncle Lu Ming. "Of course, you can choose one yourself." Lu Ming smiled. "Thank you so much, Brother Tianyun." Ming Peak was overjoyed. He immediately picked a Class 3 LV6 Crimson Blood Scale Wolf and rode on it. Roar! As soon as Ming Peak rode on it, the Crimson Blood Scale Wolf let out a furious roar. Roar! At this moment, Lu Ming patted the Wolf King that he was riding and the Wolf King let out a loud roar. Immediately, the Crimson Blood Scaled Wolf became obedient and whined. Ren Mingfeng rode on it. Let's go. Ming Peak patted the Crimson Blood Scale Wolf, and it immediately roared and rushed out like a gust of wind. After a while, it ran back. Awesome, this is awesome. Ming Peak laughed. This made the others unable to stand it. "General, give me one." Hua Ying shouted. "General, I want one too." The other young men shouted. "You can choose one yourselves." Lu Ming waved his hand and said. Hua Ying and the others were overjoyed. They were all martial arts grandmasters, so they naturally chose Class 4 mounts. Hua Ying picked a Class 4 LV4, which was equivalent to a martial arts grandmaster realm LV4. The others also picked suitable mounts. For a moment, the wolves howled and the red light leaped on the grassland. They were all trying out their new mounts. This is awesome. This is a real mount. With a mount like this, killing enemies will be as easy as pie. Hua Ying and the others laughed. Ming Meng looked on enviously. With his status, he was too embarrassed to ask Lu Ming for one. "Brother Ming Meng, this one is for you." Lu Ming waved his hand, and a tall and burly Crimson Blood Scale Wolf came forward, exuding a powerful aura. This was a Class 4 LV5 Crimson Blood Scale Wolf, second only to the two Wolf Kings in the wolf pack. "Brother Tianyun, how can I accept this?" Although he said that, his eyes were fixed on the Crimson Blood Scale Wolf, and he could not move his eyes away. "Brother Ming Meng, why are you being so polite with me? Take it and ride it." Lu Ming said with a smile. "Okay, then I won't stand on ceremony." Ming Meng was overjoyed. He hurriedly jumped on the Crimson Blood Scale Wolf and controlled it to run a big circle. The smile on his face could not fade. "Let's go back to the barracks." Lu Ming waved his hand and said. Instantly, more than 8,000 Crimson Blood Scale Wolves followed Lu Ming and the others to the barracks of Moonview City. Along the way, Ming Meng's 3,000 guards looked at the Crimson Blood Scale Wolves with envy. Chapter 309. When Lu Ming and the others returned to Full Moon City, it naturally caused a huge commotion. The entire Full Moon City was shaken. The 100,000 Mountain Suppression Army was even more shocked and envious. As for Lu Ming's 18,000 troops, they were extremely excited. They knew that the Crimson Blood Scaled Wolves would definitely be assigned to them. Sure enough, from the next day onwards, Lu Ming began to select 8,000 of the strongest soldiers from the 18,000 troops and assigned each of them a Crimson Blood Scaled Wolf. In this army of 8,000, everyone's cultivation was at least at the 9th level of the Martial Warrior realm. Among them, 2,000 were at the Martial Master realm and about 100 were at the Great Martial Master realm. 8,000 people formed a Crimson Blood Scaled Wolf cavalry. Those who were assigned the Crimson Blood Scaled Wolves were elated and excited. A powerful mount meant that their battle prowess was stronger. On the battlefield, not only did they have a higher chance of survival, but they also had a higher chance of killing the enemy and making contributions. All of them were extremely grateful to Lu Ming. Many of them even secretly swore to follow Lu Ming to death. As for those who were not assigned the crimson blood-scaled wolves, although they were envious, they were not jealous. They knew that the reason why they were not assigned the crimson blood-scaled wolves was because their cultivation was not enough. And Lu Ming was a peerless genius whose name shook the Blazing Sun Empire. His future was limitless. They secretly swore to follow Lu Ming well and cultivate diligently. There would be benefits sooner or later. Lu Ming did not expect that this move would make the army under him trust him even more. It also made him more prestigious. 2 days later. Rumble. On the prairie, a crimson blood-scaled wolf cavalry whistled past like a gust of wind. Their aura was earth-shattering and stirred up the wind and clouds. Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing rode at the front. The wind whistled and hit their faces, but the light in Lu Ming's eyes became brighter and brighter. As a man, what could make one's blood boil more than leading an iron-blooded army and making contributions on the battlefield with a beauty beside him? Roar! Roar! The howls of wolves could be heard as the 8,000 cavalrymen whistled through the air. On the grassland, when the other demonic beasts saw this, they all ran away madly, not daring to stop for even a moment. In the distance, Ming Meng and his army watched in shock. In the face of such power, most of the mountain-crushing army were terrified. Who can stop such an army? Ming Meng sighed. It's a pity that there are only 8,000 of them. Moreover, the cultivation base of each knight is too low. Otherwise, they might have become a special force to fight against the Yi Moon Empire. Beside Ming Meng, a deputy general sighed. That's right. The Yi Moon Empire's Blood Moon Demonic Tiger Legion and Grey Wolf Legion each have 100,000 soldiers. If they all attack together, Tianyan's 8,000 red blood cavalrymen will be no match for them. Another deputy general sighed. Don't ask for too much. 8,000 Qi Xia armored cavalry is equivalent to 100,000 ordinary soldiers. For my Moon City, this is a great thing. Ming Meng said. In the next few days, the Yi Moon Empire didn't make any moves. Lu Ming took the red blood-scaled wolves to practice on the grassland. He wanted to get the soldiers and their mounts to know each other better. In the blink of an eye, 5 days had passed. The 8,000 soldiers and the red blood-scaled wolves were getting along well. On the 6th day, a message suddenly came. The Northern Army, which was 3,000 miles away from the Moon City, sent an urgent message asking for help from the mountain-crushing army. They were under attack from the Yi Moon Empire. General Ming, it's urgent. I will take the red blood cavalrymen to ask for help first. In the big tent of the military camp, Lu Ming and Ming Meng were discussing this matter. Lu Ming directly proposed to take the red blood cavalrymen to help first. The Northern Army was another powerful army of the royal family in the north. It and the mountain-crushing army complemented each other. Once the Northern Army was destroyed, the mountain-crushing army would be in danger too. Therefore, when the Northern Army was in danger, they had to help. The red blood cavalrymen were the fastest, so they were the most suitable ones to go first. All right. Brother Tianyun, go first. The Northern Army will follow. Ming Meng said. After a while, the red blood cavalrymen rushed out of the camp like the wind, heading for the Northern Army's North City. The red blood cavalrymen only needed 4 hours to travel 3,000 miles. The red blood cavalrymen could travel tens of thousands of miles in a day. When Lu Ming and the others arrived at a grassland 100 miles away from the Northern Army, they saw countless people fighting. There were at least hundreds of thousands of people fighting together. Their shouts shook the sky. Grey Wolf Army, Blood Moon Demonic Tiger Army. Lu Ming saw 2 armies in the Yi Moon Army, each with about 10,000 people. They were extremely powerful and were fiercely attacking the Northern Army. The Northern Army had about 60 or 70,000 people. They were surrounded by the Yi Moon Empire's army and were constantly attacking. The smell of blood filled the grassland. Kill! Lu Ming shouted. He and Xian Yanqing rode in the front, rushing towards the Grey Wolf Army. Howl! Howl! Apparently, the Grey Wolf army had also noticed Lu Ming and the others. They gathered their forces and rushed towards Lu Ming and the others. However, halfway through the charge, the Grey Wolf army let out a terrified cry. What is that? Oh my God! Are those red blood scale wolves? How is that possible? They are red blood scale wolves. They are an army of red blood scale wolves. Countless people in the Grey Wolf army looked forward in fear. Howl! Howl! The red blood scale wolves roared. Their eyes turned red as they rushed forward. Howl! The Grey Wolf cavalryman's mount started to howl in fear and slowed down. Damn it! Go! Go! Don't be afraid! The general of the Grey Wolf army roared. He cut the wolf's skin with his saber and made it bleed. The others did the same. They all cut the wolf's skin. The wounded wolf became even more ferocious. It suppressed its fear and rushed towards the red blood cavalryman. Kill! Destroy the Grey Wolf army! Lu Ming shouted. His voice was full of killing intent. The first army he had encountered was the Grey Wolf army. In that battle, they had ambushed the Grey Wolf army. They had the advantage in numbers and had lost 2,000 men. Lu Ming was still brooding over that. Now that he saw the other Grey Wolf army, he was naturally filled with killing intent. Kill! The other red blood cavalrymen felt the same as Lu Ming. They all roared and rushed forward. Bang! The two armies finally clashed. However, the seemingly powerful Grey Wolf army was as weak as tofu in front of the red blood cavalrymen. The moment the two armies clashed, the Grey Wolf army was torn in half. Miserable cries filled the air. Howl! The red blood scale wolves were extremely ferocious. They roared and slashed out with their claws, tearing the Grey Wolf cavalrymen and their wolves in half. In a short moment, the Grey Wolf army's formation had been torn in half by the red blood cavalrymen. It was a mess and thousands of corpses were left behind. Kill! Lu Ming turned around. The 8,000 red blood cavalrymen followed him and charged towards the remaining Grey Wolf army. This was a battle without any suspense. The difference in strength was too great. It was a one-sided slaughter. Ah! Run! Save me! Don't kill me! Run! Chapter 310. Devour. Lu Ming manipulated the Nine Dragons bloodline, and a terrifying devouring force was attached to his left palm. His left palm was like a black hole, and Lu Ming devoured the essence blood. Wherever he went, regardless of whether it was the blood essence of humans or the blood essence of the Ash Wolf, they were all devoured and refined. This time, Lu Ming used half of his essence blood to increase his cultivation. Although the Grey Wolf cavalry was not strong individually, they had the advantage in numbers. His cultivation base was slowly rising. Kill! Kill! The red blood cavalry's battle cries shook the sky. They kept reaping the lives of the Grey Wolf cavalry. The battle on the other side was alerted by the noise. The Grey Wolf cavalry is about to be destroyed. Our reinforcements are here. The Northern Battlefront army shouted. The Moon Empire's army was shocked. Send reinforcements to the Grey Wolf cavalry. Quick! A general roared. All of a sudden, a group of 20,000 ordinary cavalry charged toward Lu Ming and the rest. Kill! Kill them all! Lu Ming roared and dashed toward the 20,000-strong army. The other red blood cavalry followed him. The 10,000 Grey Wolf cavalry were almost wiped out. Only a few hundred of them were left. They were running away in fear. The Chi Xia armored cavalry once again formed into a sharp knife formation and rushed towards the enemy. This time, it was even more one-sided. The 20,000 Grey Wolf cavalry were defeated as soon as they came into contact. The red blood-scaled wolves roared and the enemy's mounts trembled. Their fighting strength was greatly reduced. The red blood-scaled wolves waved their claws and tore apart several cavalrymen. They could not resist at all. It was still a massacre. Reinforcements. Send the signal. Ask for reinforcements. An exasperated shout came from the Inmun Empire's army. Following that, streaks of smoke and fire flew up into the sky, forming multiple moons. The fierce battle continued. The Crimson Blood Scale Wolf entered the battlefield for the first time, displaying its unparalleled battle prowess. Facing enemies several times its size, it easily tore apart the enemy's battle formation and slaughtered the enemy's cavalry. Corpses were everywhere. Corpses were everywhere. During the battle, Lu Ming's cultivation broke through and reached the middle stage of the second martial Grandmaster realm. Rumble. Not long after, a deafening tremor resounded between heaven and earth. In the distance, tiger roars came from the Crimson Moon demonic tigers. The army of Crimson Moon demonic tigers was rushing toward them. There were 20,000 Crimson Moon demonic tigers. Together with the previous 10,000 Crimson Moon demonic tigers, there were 30,000 of them. Kill! Kill that red blood-scaled wolf cavalry! The Crimson Moon demonic tigers were led by a general in red blood cavalry. He was strong blood-scaled wolf, holding a mace. What a powerful aura! This is the aura of the 7th level martial ancestor realm. Blood-scaled wolves was red blood tiger cavalry kill. Without hesitation, Lu Ming led the 8,000 red blood iron cavalry and charged toward the 20,000 Crimson Moon demonic tiger legion. The two armies drew closer and closer to each other. Death, brat! The blood-armored general roared and smashed the mace in his hand toward Lu Ming. Boom! Boom! The mace smashed through the air, causing the space to tremble violently. Golden Eye! Lu Ming's mind flickered, and the golden-eyed blood zombie beside him roared and charged towards the crimson-armored man. Boom! Boom! The golden-eyed blood zombie and the blood-armored general were locked in a fierce battle. Whoosh! Lu Ming thrust out his spear, the power of wind and fire fusing and erupting. Bang! A 5th martial ancestor realm expert had his heart pierced by Lu Ming's spear and fell to the ground. Lu Ming rushed over and devoured his essence blood, refining it with extreme speed. Following that, the spear swept out, and a 100-meter-long spear light swept out. Dozens of Blood Moon Devil Tiger cavalry were blown apart, and their flesh and armor fragments scattered all over the ground. Kill! The two sides engaged in a fierce battle. The battle was incomparably fierce. Boom! Boom! The golden-eyed blood zombie roared and attacked the blood-armored general without fear of death. For a moment, the blood-armored general was at a complete disadvantage. Beast Dao Palm! Lu Ming struck out with his palm, and a huge beast palm flew towards the blood-armored general. Great demonic palm print! Not far away, Xian Yanqing also struck out a few palms, and a pitch-black palm print flew towards the blood-armored general. Bang! Bang! Although the blood-armored general was fierce, he could not withstand the ferocious attacks of the golden-eyed blood zombie. In addition, Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing were besieging him. His body shook violently, and he spat out large mouthfuls of blood as he retreated quickly. Chi, however, the golden-eyed blood zombie would not miss this opportunity. He pounced on the blood-armored general, and his fingernails were sharper than sabers. In an instant, he tore the blood-armored general's armor into pieces. Lu Ming rushed forward and devoured the blood-armored general's essence blood. This was the essence blood of a 7th martial ancestor realm martial artist, and it was shocking. Lu Ming continued to refine it, and his cultivation level began to rise rapidly. The general has been killed. Someone in the Blood Moon Devil Tiger Cavalry shouted. The commander of the Blood Moon Devil Tiger Cavalry had been killed, and their morale had plummeted. On the other hand, the Red Blood Cavalry's morale had soared. General Tianyun is invincible. General Tianyun is invincible. The Red Blood Cavalry roared as they charged towards the enemy. Slowly, the Crimson Blood Fiend Tiger Army began to crumble. In a battle, victory and defeat were decided by a hair's breadth. Once they collapsed, they would be defeated like a landslide. Kill! The Red Blood Cavalry's eyes were bloodshot as they charged towards the enemy. Hold on, hold on! The Deputy General of the Blood Moon Devil Tiger Cavalry roared. He tried to hold on and turn the tide, but it was all in vain. The Blood Moon Devil Tiger Cavalry was doomed. Boom! Boom! In the distance, there were explosions in the sky. Lu Ming's eyes were like lightning as he looked in that direction. There was also an intense battle going on in the sky a few miles away. That was the battlefield of the experts, because the people fighting there were all experts of the martial ancestor realm and above. There were 40 to 50 people fighting in the sky. Lu Ming discovered that there were experts of the Mystic Essence Sword sect and the Ghost Moon Saber sect. The others were undoubtedly experts of the Yin Moon Empire. That's Autumn Moon. In the crowd, Lu Ming suddenly saw a familiar figure. It was Autumn Moon. Obviously, after not seeing him for such a long time, Autumn Moon had reached the martial ancestor realm. Huaing, I'll leave the Red Blood Cavalry to you for the time being. All of a sudden, Lu Ming's shout could be heard from afar. Huaing was startled. Although he did not understand the reason, he immediately replied, yes. On the battlefield, one only needed to obey. Good, I'll leave the Red Blood Cavalry to you. Lu Ming said. There was no suspense in the battle here. Huaing was well versed in the art of commanding, so Lu Ming was relieved to leave it to him. Golde, let's go. Lu Ming moved and leaped from the crimson blood-scaled Wolf King's body, flying toward the distant sky. The Gold-Eye Blood Zombie followed closely behind Lu Ming. They covered the distance of a few miles in an instant. Who's there? Chapter 311. I'm here to kill you. Lu Ming could not be bothered to talk to him as he stabbed out with his spear. Fiery Wind Kill. The man was only of Martial Ancestor Realm 3 and was unable to defend himself against Lu Ming's attack. He was killed by the spear in the air. Then, Lu Ming looked around and analyzed the situation. Most of the experts of the Burning Sun Empire were from the Mystic Essence Sword sect and the Ghost Moon Saber sect. It was obvious that they were at a disadvantage. High up in the sky, there was a loud explosion and a powerful aura came down. It was the aura of a Martial Ancestor Realm 7 martial artist. Not far away, Autumn Moon was wearing a white dress. She exuded an extremely cold aura. When she waved her hand, the cold aura froze everything. After not seeing her for a while, Autumn Moon was even more beautiful. Her curves were graceful and her figure was even more voluptuous. However, her beautiful face was extremely cold. It was even colder than the aura she exuded. Judging from the aura on Autumn Moon's body, Autumn Moon had reached the early stages of Martial Ancestor Realm 2. Even Lu Ming was shocked by her cultivation progress. Her opponent was a Martial Ancestor Realm 3 expert. However, he was completely suppressed by Autumn Moon. Absolute frost. Autumn Moon shouted. She waved her hands and an endless amount of cold aura surged. Her opponent roared, but in the next moment, he was turned into an ice sculpture. Autumn Moon slapped out and the ice sculpture shattered into pieces. A Martial Ancestor Realm 3 martial artist had been easily killed by Autumn Moon. Little bitch, you're courting death. At that moment, a sharp sound was heard and a bright sword radiance shot towards Autumn Moon. Autumn Moon's face changed. Her body flashed quickly and she managed to dodge the sword radiance. With a flash of light, a white-haired old man appeared in front of Autumn Moon. He looked at Autumn Moon coldly. Little bitch, die. The old man shouted coldly. His sword radiance flashed and he charged towards Autumn Moon. Martial Ancestor Realm 5. The old man had a cultivation of Martial Ancestor Realm 5. His sword radiance was bright and sharp. In an instant, he had completely suppressed Autumn Moon. Rise! Autumn Moon shouted. Her body flashed with a blood-red light, and a humanoid figure with blurry facial features appeared. This figure was incomparably cold, as if it was completely made of ice. At the same time, 5 silver chakras flashed across this figure. However, it was still seen by Lao O and Lu Ming. Level 5 King Class Bloodline. The second bloodline awakened by Autumn Moon was actually a level 5 King Class bloodline. Lu Ming was shocked. But on second thought, he felt that it was normal. The first bloodline of Autumn Moon was originally a very powerful natural type ice bloodline among the special bloodlines. Its level was as high as level 8. It was normal for the second bloodline to be powerful. However, Old O was frightened. Then, he roared with a ferocious expression, "Die, die, I will not let you live in this world." Amidst the screams, the terrifying sword chi surged towards Autumn Moon. After activating her bloodline, Autumn Moon's combat strength had increased tremendously. Although she was still at a disadvantage, she would not be defeated for a while. However, at this moment, a black-robed figure appeared not far away from Autumn Moon. He stared coldly at Autumn Moon. "Die!" Suddenly, the black-robed man attacked. A jet-black sword radiance pierced towards Autumn Moon. He was also a level 5 martial ancestor realm cultivation. "You are the one who will die." When the black-robed man appeared, Lu Ming had already rushed over. At this moment, he shouted coldly and swept out his spear. Clang! The long spear hit the black-robed man's long sword. The long sword shook violently and almost exploded. "Who is it?" The black-robed man's body shook violently and he retreated quickly. "The one who will kill you." Lu Ming stepped out and charged towards the black-robed man. Boom! On the long spear, the power of wind and fire was entwined, causing the long spear to move at an extremely fast speed. Bam! The black-robed man's body was swept by the spear. He screamed in pain and his body exploded. Now, Lu Ming only needed one move to kill a level 5 martial ancestor realm cultivation. The 9 dragons' bloodline circulated and devoured the opponent's essence blood. Suddenly, Lu Ming's body shook. His cultivation had broken through again. He had reached the late stage of level 2 martial ancestor realm. The essence blood he had devoured was too rich and there was still a large portion that he had not refined. Kill! With the breakthrough in his cultivation, Lu Ming's combat strength was even stronger. In a flash, he appeared beside Elder O, who was fighting with Autumn Moon. He stabbed out with his spear and the spear radiance was like lightning. Elder O screamed in horror and tried to dodge. However, everything was in vain. In the next moment, a large hole appeared in his chest. Killing with one spear. Lu Ming held the long spear in his hand and looked like a god of war. "You," Autumn Moon looked at Lu Ming and her heart trembled. She did not know why, but when she saw Lu Ming, she felt that he was extremely familiar. Although his body shape and appearance were completely different, she was all too familiar with his temperament. For a moment, she was stunned. "What? Little girl, don't you recognize your young master?" Lu Ming came to Autumn Moon's side and smiled. Hearing this, Autumn Moon's body trembled. Her beautiful eyes suddenly widened as she stared straight at Lu Ming. Young master. Is it really you? Is it really you?" Chiao Yu's eyes were misty and tears rolled down her cheeks as she spoke emotionally. "Little girl, if it's not me, who else could it be?" Lu Ming stretched out his finger and scratched the tip of Autumn Moon's white nose. Autumn Moon was so emotional that her body trembled. Tears streamed down her face as she said, young master, Autumn Moon has finally found young master." If it were not for the fact that they were fighting, she would have jumped into Lu Ming's arms. Back then, she was brought to a secret place by her master to cultivate in seclusion. Her cultivation progress was extremely terrifying. However, when she ended her cultivation and returned to the Mystic Essence Sword sect, she heard a shocking piece of news. Lu Ming killed his way into the White Tiger Hall and killed many people from the Duanmu family. In the end, the Duanmu family forced him to leave the Mystic Essence Sword sect and disappear without a trace. This news was like a bolt from the blue to Autumn Moon. If it were not for her master stopping her, she would have killed her way into the White Tiger Hall. During this period of time, she had traveled far and wide, but there was no news about Lu Ming. If it were not for her master's kindness, she would have left the Mystic Essence Sword sect on her own accord. This time, she followed the experts of the Mystic Essence Sword sect to support the Ghost Moon Saber sect. One reason was to gain experience, and the other was to find Lu Ming. She wanted to try her luck and see if she could get any news about Lu Ming. She never expected that Lu Ming would suddenly appear beside her. One could only imagine the excitement in her heart. "Silly girl, why are you crying? It's more important to kill the enemy first. After we kill the enemy, we can have a good chat." Lu Ming stretched out his hand to wipe away Autumn Moon's tears. "Yes, young master." Autumn Moon's tears turned into smiles. Her face revealed a smile that was even more brilliant than flowers. "At this time, you still have the mood to be intimate with each other. Let this old man send the two of you on your way to the underworld to be intimate." Suddenly, a dry and hoarse voice rang out. A skinny and gloomy old man appeared not far away and looked at the two of them with a cold smile. His body emitted a powerful aura. Chapter 312. Roar! The golden-eyed blood zombie growled and stood in front of the old man. The old man looked at the golden-eyed blood zombie with fear. The reason why he did not launch a sneak attack was because of the golden-eyed blood zombie. "Old man, you're the one who's going to die. Golden-eyed, go!" Lu Ming growled. The golden-eyed blood zombie roared and pounced on the old man. Swoosh! Swoosh! At that moment, two figures appeared behind Lu Ming and Autumn Moon. As soon as they appeared, they turned into two slender and sharp sword radiances and stabbed toward Lu Ming and Autumn Moon. Their speed was shocking and the sword radiances were sharp and indestructible. The two sneak attackers were at the peak of the sixth realm of the martial ancestor realm and their auras were similar. When they joined forces, their power was multiplied. "You're courting death." Lu Ming roared furiously and pulled Autumn Moon. At the same time, 6 ancient shields appeared in front of him. The 6 shields stacked together and blocked in front of him. Poof! Poof! Like leather being pierced, the sword radiances of the two sneak attackers were too sharp. The 6 shields were pierced one after another. However, Lu Ming had bought himself some time. His long spear turned into 2 spear radiances and stabbed forward. Clang! Clang! The tip of the spear and the sword collided. Lu Ming felt waves of sharp sword chi surging toward him. The wind and fire aura on the tip of the spear were almost scattered. Lu Ming moved and pulled Autumn Moon back quickly. The two sneak attackers were also blocked and were forced to retreat. At that moment, Lu Ming saw the two figures clearly. These two people looked almost exactly the same. They were short and small, like monkeys. They were about 40 years old. Damn it, this person can block our attack at such a young age. He's too terrifying. We can't let him live. The two short men growled and were shocked. Kill! Swoosh! Swoosh! The two of them moved and turned into 2 sword radiances. They charged toward Lu Ming and Autumn Moon. They were as fast as lightning and could not be seen with the naked eye. Icebound 10,000 miles. Autumn Moon shouted as her second bloodline appeared. With a wave of her hand, the temperature in front of her plummeted, and a large patch of frost appeared out of nowhere. It was as if even the air itself had frozen. Great success, Ice Force. Lu Ming could tell that the ice force that Autumn Moon comprehended was already at the major success stage. Its power was incomparably powerful. The two short men also seemed to be frozen, and their speed was greatly reduced. Damn it! Damn it! The two short men roared angrily. Haha, good! Lu Ming laughed heartily as he struck out with both palms. In the sky, 2 huge beast claws condensed and blasted towards the two short men. During this period of time, Lu Ming had already cultivated the 3 Dao palms to the 5th level. Its power was close to that of a superior grade Earth-rank martial skill. It was extremely powerful. As long as Lu Ming comprehended the final Heaven's Path palm, its might would be infinitely close to a Heaven-tier martial skill. Boom! Boom! Two beast claws came crashing down like mountains. The two short men slashed out streaks of sword chi to block the beast claws. With two booming sounds, the two of them trembled and quickly retreated. Swoosh! Lu Ming charged forward. His long spear was like a dragon as the spear radiance pierced through the air and blasted towards the two short men. Behind him, Autumn Moon waved her hands and ice wheels that were like crescent moons appeared. They slashed towards the two short men continuously. It had to be said that the two short men were extremely powerful. Their genuine chi was dense and extremely sharp. Their cultivation had reached the peak of Martial Ancestor Realm Level 6. When the two of them joined forces, they could compete with an ordinary Martial Ancestor Realm Level 7. When Lu Ming and Autumn Moon joined forces, they could only fight to a draw. Refine for me. Lu Ming tried his best to refine the essence blood in his body. The essence blood in his body came from a Martial Ancestor Realm Level 7 martial artist. There was also the essence blood of a Martial Ancestor Realm Level 5 martial artist and a large number of other martial artists. It was extremely rich. At that moment, it was continuously converted into the energy of the Nine Dragons bloodline and into Lu Ming's genuine chi. Lu Ming's genuine chi continued to grow. After a while, he reached the peak of Martial Ancestor Realm Level 2. However, he did not stop there. He started to break through to Martial Ancestor Realm Level 3. It was not the first time Lu Ming had broken through while fighting. He was familiar with the process. Of course, it was because of the Nine Dragons bloodline. The two short men became more and more frightened as they fought. Firstly, Autumn Moon's cold chi was too shocking. Although her cultivation was much lower than theirs, the cold chi was extremely terrifying. It was as if it could freeze everything. They felt that the genuine chi in their bodies was about to be frozen and their speed slowed down. Of course, the most terrifying one was Lu Ming. His attacks were violent and his strength was shocking. Each of his attacks could destroy a mountain. Each of his attacks forced them to give their all. Furthermore, Lu Ming did not seem to be tired at all. The more he fought, the braver he became. The two of them had the intention to retreat. Come, let's leave first. These two are too terrifying. We'll let the stronger experts kill them. Let's go. The two of them slashed a few times and decided to retreat. At that moment, Lu Ming's eyes emitted a brilliant glow as he sneered, "Go? It's too late to leave now." Boom! The aura on Lu Ming's body rose rapidly like an erupting volcano. Third layer Martial Ancestor Realm. Just a moment ago, his cultivation had successfully broken through. After breaking through to the third layer Martial Ancestor Realm, Lu Ming's combat strength rose rapidly again. Oh no, he broke through. One of the short men yelled in disbelief. Demon, he's a demon. Retreat quickly. The other man yelled crazily as he retreated frantically. However, it was too late. Lu Ming moved like lightning and appeared not far away from him in the blink of an eye. He thrust his spear forward. Poof! It was as if the air had been pierced through. A spear radiance instantly crossed 100 meters and penetrated everything. The short man did not even have time to react before his heart was pierced through by the spear radiance. Buzz! Then, Lu Ming held the spear in his hand and threw it out. A spear radiance that was 200 meters long crossed the void and blasted toward the other short man. Break! The short man yelled in horror as he slashed out a shocking sword radiance. However, it was useless. The spear radiance swept past and the sword radiance collapsed. The spear radiance did not stop and struck the short man. Bang! The short man screamed as many bones in his body were broken. His body flew out like a cannonball as blood spurted out from his body. Although he was not dead, he was not far from it. Chi! Chiao Yu waved out a crescent-shaped ice wheel, which rushed through the short man's body and cut him in two. Lu Ming rushed past them and devoured their blood essence. The blood essence of two martial artists at the peak of the sixth-layer martial ancestor realm was definitely a great supplement. Roar! On the other side, the golden-eyed blood zombie was fearless and had completely suppressed his opponent. How is this possible? Seeing that Lu Ming had killed the two short men, the old man could not believe it. Although the two short men were no match for him, they were not to be underestimated. He had thought that it would be more than enough to kill Lu Ming and Autumn Moon. However, he had never expected that they would be killed by Lu Ming. The old man was shocked. It's your turn now. Lu Ming's eyes were like lightning as he moved and stabbed the old man with his spear. Clang! The old man slashed out with his sword and collided with the long spear. However, he was pushed back by a powerful force. How can he be so strong? Chapter 313. The old man was no match for the golden-eyed blood zombie. With the addition of the freakish Lu Ming, he did not dare to continue the fight. He turned and ran. You want to leave? It's not that easy. Lu Ming sneered and chased after him. At the same time, the golden-eyed blood zombie did the same. The white-haired old man was shocked. He flew up into the sky. There were 6 figures, both male and female. Each of them emitted a terrifying aura. The 6 of them were all experts in the martial ancestor realm. There were 3 from the Yin Moon Empire and 3 from the Burning Sun Empire. The 6 of them were fighting fiercely. Seeing the white-haired old man rushing over, the 3 from the Yin Moon Empire were shocked. One of them asked, "Old Lin, why are you back?" The intelligence was wrong this time. There are a few extremely powerful figures. I'm no match for them. Let's retreat quickly. The white-haired old man shouted. Retreat? We're about to win. How can we retreat now? Are you crazy? A burly man roared. Whoosh! At this time, Lu Ming and the golden-eyed blood zombie had already rushed over. The white-haired old man was scared and fled in a hurry. What's there to be afraid of? I'll kill him. That burly man bellowed coldly. The opponent who had retreated with one move was holding a huge saber in his hand. He slashed toward Lu Ming. Boom! The saber radiance slashed down and the space shook violently. No! The white-haired old man screamed. But it was too late. Roar! The golden-eyed blood zombie roared and rushed forward. He waved his claws and streaks of blood-red light appeared and collided with the saber radiance. Whoosh! Then, Lu Ming stabbed out with his spear. The spear radiance, which contained the power of wind and fire, instantly pierced through the saber radiance and headed for the burly man. The big man's pupils suddenly widened, revealing an extremely frightened look. Ah! Retreat! 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 The burly man roared. He unleashed all of his genuine chi and physical strength in an attempt to dodge the spear radiance. But it was too late. He avoided his vital parts but was still stabbed in the shoulder by the spear radiance. The burly man's shoulder exploded and one of his arms disappeared. Ah! The burly man let out a blood-curdling scream as he coughed up large mouthfuls of blood. He had already suffered heavy injuries. Circulating his remaining Jinqi, he attempted to flee. Kill! Lu Ming shouted. His long spear shook, and the spear light swept out horizontally, whipping the big man's body. The big man screamed in horror, and then his body exploded in the air. Whoosh! Lu Ming rushed over and devoured the blood essence. Retreat, retreat quickly! The white-haired old man was scared out of his wits. The big man, who was no weaker than him, was killed by Lu Ming and the golden-eyed blood zombie in a single exchange. He was so scared that his whole body trembled. He screamed and ran even faster. Go! The other 2 martial arts Grandmaster realm experts from the Yin Moon Empire also turned pale with fright and fled madly. In the blink of an eye, the three of them disappeared without a trace. Lu Ming did not give chase. The reason why he had been able to kill the burly man so easily was not because he was much stronger than the burly man, but because the burly man had been too careless. That was why he had been killed by Lu Ming and the golden-eyed blood zombie. If they were to fight head-on, Lu Ming might not be able to defeat the burly man. "Mister, how should I address you?" At this moment, the three martial arts Grandmaster realm experts from the Burning Sun Empire flew over. They cupped their fists and bowed. At the same time, they carefully sized up Lu Ming. After discovering Lu Ming's age, they were shocked. "I am Tianyun." Lu Ming cupped his fists and said. From their attire, he could tell that one of them was an expert from the Mystic Essence Sword sect, and the other two were experts from the Ghost Moon Saber sect. "You are Tianyun?" The expert from the Mystic Essence Sword sect was a tall and skinny man in his 50s. At this moment, he exclaimed. The two experts from the Ghost Moon Saber sect also looked at Lu Ming in shock. Tianyun's name had spread throughout the Burning Sun Empire. As long as one was a martial artist, they would know of him. However, today, they realized that Tianyun was even stronger and more amazing than the rumors said. "Seniors, it's more important for us to deal with the enemy first," Lu Ming said. "That's right. Let's go and kill those beasts from the Yin Moon Empire." The tall and skinny man from the Mystic Essence Sword sect roared. Immediately, the four of them rushed to the battlefield of the other martial arts grandmasters. The martial arts grandmasters from the Yin Moon Empire had obviously received the news and fled like the wind. After leaving behind a few lives, they all fled. "Kill!" The other martial arts grandmasters charged towards the battlefield on the ground. "Mr. Chiu Moon appeared beside Lu Ming and whispered. Her eyebrows were filled with joy. "Chiu Moon, let's go and kill the enemy together. After the battle, we can have a good gathering." Lu Ming smiled and said. Chiu Moon nodded obediently and followed Lu Ming to the battlefield below. There was no suspense on the battlefield below. When Lu Ming left, the 20,000 Crimson Moon demonic tigers of the Yin Moon Empire had already been defeated. After that, the Northern Battlefront Army fought back and attacked the Crimson Blood-scaled wolves from both sides. The Yin Moon Army was completely defeated. When Lu Ming came back, he saw Xian Yanqing leading the Crimson Blood-scaled wolves to chase the defeated Yin Moon Army. Along the way, there were corpses everywhere. Whoosh! Lu Ming landed on the Crimson Blood-scaled Wolf King. Chiu Moon also landed and sat in front of Lu Ming. The Crimson Blood-scaled Wolf King was huge, more than 6 meters long. It was still very spacious for two people to sit on it. On the other side, Xian Yanqing saw Lu Ming and Chiu Moon sitting in front of Lu Ming. His face darkened and a trace of coldness flashed in his eyes. "Run!" The soldiers of the Yin Moon Empire screamed in fear and ran for their lives. However, no matter how fast they were not as fast as the Crimson Blood-scaled wolves. They were killed one by one. The smell of blood filled the air. Suddenly, Lu Ming noticed that the golden-eye blood zombie next to him was emitting a thick bloody light. The bloody chi in the air kept gathering towards the golden-eye blood zombie. The bloody light on the golden-eye blood zombie was getting thicker and thicker. That's right. Blood zombies like to drink blood to increase their strength. The battlefield is their heaven. Lu Ming thought to himself. He was secretly happy. He was happy that the golden-eye blood zombie had become stronger. The slaughter continued. After an hour, everything returned to normal. The Yin Moon Empire had suffered a crushing defeat. Tens of thousands of corpses were left behind. It was a great loss. All of this was because of the arrival of the Crimson Blood-scaled wolves led by Lu Ming. The Crimson Blood-scaled wolves' power was demonstrated. Dong dong, a troop of horses galloped over and stopped 100 meters in front of Lu Ming. It was the Northern Battlefront Army. "Is that General Tianyun in front of us?" A big dark-skinned man in his 40s shouted. "Yes, I am Tianyun," Lu Ming said. I am Huang Chenlong, the Deputy General of the Northern Battlefront Army. Nice to meet you, General Tianyun. The dark-skinned man cupped his fists. General Huang, please come over for a chat. Lu Ming said. Huang Chenlong nodded and led some people to meet up with Lu Ming. Lu Ming asked Huang Chenlong what had happened. How was the Northern Battlefront Army? The great general was assassinated. Chapter 314. The general of the North Battlefront Army was assassinated by the assassins of the Empire of Moon. Then, the army of the Empire of Moon seized the opportunity to attack. The North Battlefront Army was in chaos after the general died. The Empire of Moon seized the chance and broke into the North Battlefront city. They suffered a great loss. The remaining soldiers of the North Battlefront Army tried to break out of the encirclement, but the army of Moon caught up with them. That was the reason for the great battle. Luckily, the superior cultivators of the Ghost Moon Saber sect and the Mystic Essence Sword sect helped them. Otherwise, they would have been defeated. With the help of Lu Ming's army, they were able to turn the tables and defeat the army of Moon. The North Battlefront city has been occupied by the Empire of Moon. They have deployed a great army to guard it. It's too difficult to take it back. Huang Chenlong sighed. Lu Ming had a sudden realization. So that was the case. So, what's your next plan? Lu Ming asked. Huang Chenlong and the other deputy generals looked at each other and nodded. Then they got off their horses and bowed to Lu Ming. If you don't abandon us, we are willing to lead the remaining soldiers of the North Battlefront Army to you. Generals, what are you doing? Stand up and talk. Lu Ming hurried to help Huang Chenlong and the others up. General Tianyun, we are defeated. We have nowhere to go. If you don't take us in, we will be wiped out by the Empire of Moon sooner or later. You are a peerless genius. If you lead us, we will avenge our brothers. Please take us in. Huang Chenlong bowed to him. Okay. I will take you in. Lu Ming pondered for a while and nodded in agreement. Thank you so much, General Tianyun. Huang Chenlong and the others were overjoyed. Generals, brothers, don't worry. I, Tianyun, swear that I will lead you to kill the Empire of Moon and avenge our brothers. Lu Ming shouted. His voice spread far and reached the ears of every soldier of the North Battlefront Army. General Tianyun is awesome. General Tianyun is invincible. Instantly, the field burst into loud cheers. After a while, the cheers stopped. Then, Lu Ming asked Huang Chenlong to count the remaining Northern Battlefront Army. Huang Chenlong accepted the order and left. At this moment, a ray of light flashed across the sky, and a figure appeared. It was the tall and thin man from the Mystic Essence Sword sect. Autumn Moon, the battle here is over. Follow me back to the Ghost Moon Saber sect. The lanky man said. Martial uncle, you can go back first. I plan to stay in the military camp to train. Autumn Moon said. Stay in the barracks? No. The tall and skinny man's expression changed drastically. Autumn Moon's second bloodline awakening was a terrifying level 5 king class. This was too shocking. She was much stronger than Duan Mulin. Her future achievements were unimaginable. Only a few of the higher-ups of the Mystic Essence Sword sect knew that Autumn Moon was listed as a key training target. Now that Autumn Moon had to stay in the military camp to train, if anything were to happen, he wouldn't be able to answer to Autumn Moon's master and the other higher-ups. Martial uncle, don't worry. I'll be careful. Autumn Moon said. Senior, Miss Autumn Moon will stay in the barracks. Tianyun will do his best to protect her. I won't let her get hurt. Lu Ming cupped his fists and said. The tall and skinny man muttered to himself as his mind started to wander. How did Autumn Moon get to know Tianyun? Could it be love at first sight between a hero and a beauty? It's very possible. With Autumn Moon's talent, only a genius like Tianyun is worthy of her. Fine, I'll let her stay. I'll go back and report to Senior and the sect leader to let them decide. Thinking of this, the tall and skinny man bowed slightly and said, since that's the case, I'll have to trouble young Master Tianyun. Senior, don't worry. Lu Ming nodded. Then, the tall and skinny man turned into a ray of light and disappeared. Humph. General Tianyun, you're really handsome. You didn't forget to kidnap a little beauty when you're marching to war. Why? It's too cold at night. Are you using her to warm your bed? At this time, a faint voice sounded. Xian Yanqing came over riding on the red blood scale wolf. He carefully sized up Qiu Yu and a gloomy look flashed in the depths of his eyes. Ahem, Shaoqing, what nonsense are you talking about? Lu Ming coughed a few times and then rolled his eyes. He approached Xian Yanqing and said, what's wrong? You sound so sour. Are you jealous? Jealous? You, what nonsense are you talking about? How could I be jealous of you? Dream on. Xian Yanqing's heart skipped a few times and she hurriedly denied it. But her heart beat even faster. That inexplicable feeling in her heart made her a little flustered. When she saw Lu Ming and Qiu Yu together, she felt an inexplicable sourness in her heart. Am I really jealous? No, that's impossible. How could I be jealous of this guy? I just want to trample him under my feet. Yes, that must be it. I will work hard to cultivate and trample him under my feet as soon as possible. Xian Yanqing kept thinking in her heart. She stared at Lu Ming fiercely and gritted her teeth. Lu Ming got goosebumps from her stare. He thought to himself, is this woman crazy? On the side, Autumn Moon looked at Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing. No one knew what she was thinking, but she didn't say anything. After a while, Huang Chenlong came to report the number of soldiers. There were 60,160 soldiers in the Northern Battlefront Army. Almost 40,000 of the 100,000 soldiers in the Northern Battlefront Army were killed in one night. It was a great loss. Immediately, Lu Ming led the Red Blood Scale Cavalry and more than 60,000 soldiers to the Moon City. On the way, they met Ming Meng, who was leading the army to rescue them. After knowing the situation of the Northern Battlefront Army, Ming Meng sighed. They returned to the Moon City the same way they came. After returning to the Moon City, Lu Ming asked Huang to reorganize the Northern Battlefront Army. He hid in the Temple of Paragon and started to refine the Essence Blood. Although he had refined a part of the Essence Blood, there was still a lot left. The energy of the Essence Blood was turned into genuine qi. Lu Ming's cultivation kept increasing. After refining all the Essence Blood in the Nine Dragon bloodline, his cultivation reached the late stage of the Martial Ancestor realm. He was only one step away from the peak of the Martial Ancestor realm. After breaking through to the Martial Ancestor realm, he had killed a Martial Ancestor realm 7 expert. However, the Essence Blood of the Martial Ancestor realm 7 expert didn't help him increase his cultivation by much. After refining the Essence Blood, Lu Ming left the Temple of Paragon and helped Huang reorganize the Northern Battlefront Army. 2 days later, the Northern Battlefront Army was reorganized. Lu Ming had almost 80,000 soldiers under his command. His strength had increased greatly. However, Lu Ming still wasn't satisfied. After this battle, Lu Ming found the weakness of the Red Blood Scale Wolf Army. Although the Red Blood Scale Wolf Army was powerful, most of them relied on their mounts and Red Blood Scale Wolves. The soldiers' cultivation was too weak and it was difficult for them to use the full strength of the Red Blood Scale Wolf Army. Moreover, there were too few of them. There were originally 8,000 of them, but they had lost 500 to 600 in this battle. Their numbers had decreased by a lot. I have to think of a way to increase the soldiers' cultivation. Also, I have to capture more Red Blood Scale Wolves. Lu Ming thought. Chapter 315. If he could have 30,000 Crimson Blood Scale Wolves and 30,000 Martial Master Realm Warriors to form an army, it would be truly terrifying. It would become an invincible army. Lu Ming shook his head with a smile. It was just a thought. It was too difficult to realize. Crimson Blood Scale Wolves were easy, but 30,000 Martial Master Realm Warriors were too difficult. Now, including the 60,000 Northern Battlefront Army, Lu Ming had less than 5,000 Martial Master Realm Warriors under his command. Unless it was a force like the 5 Great Sections. For example, the Mystic Essence Sword Sect, besides the young disciples, there were many warriors over 30 years old. The total number of Martial Master Realm Warriors might be more than 100,000. But that was the result of years of accumulation. In the past few days, there was no movement in the Yin Moon army. It seemed that after the battle, the Yin Moon army needed to rest. Hence, Lu Ming led the Red Blood Iron Horse into the depths of the plateau to capture the Red Blood Scaled Wolves. Roar! Lu Ming rode on the Crimson Blood Scale Wolf and rushed forward. On the side, Xie Nianqing rode on another Crimson Blood Scale Wolf and followed closely. On the other side, Autumn Moon also rode on a Crimson Blood Scale Wolf and followed. Seeing Lu Ming, Autumn Moon was in a good mood. She had a bright smile on her face every day. She followed Lu Ming all day, just like the little maid she used to be. Xie Nianqing gritted his teeth and muttered that Lu Ming was a pervert, which made Lu Ming smile bitterly. Roar! Roar! The Crimson Blood Scale Wolf army roared and marched into the depths of the wilderness. Lu Ming let the Crimson Blood Scale Wolf lead the way. After a few hours, they arrived at a huge valley. Roar! Roar! Wolf howls came from the valley. Then, Crimson Blood Scale Wolves appeared one after another. There are more. Lu Ming was overjoyed. Obviously, this was another group of Crimson Blood Scale Wolves. Roar! A huge wolf howl sounded, and a huge Crimson Blood Scaled Wolf with a fiendish aura walked out. This Crimson Blood Scale Wolf, whether it was its size or aura, was not inferior to the Crimson Blood Scale Wolf King that Lu Ming was riding. Clearly, this was the king of the Crimson Blood Scale Wolves. Roar! Roar! The Crimson Blood Scale Wolf Kings under Lu Ming and Xie Nianqing began to howl. They seemed to be communicating with the Crimson Blood Scale Wolf King. Roar! After howling for a while, the Crimson Blood Scale Wolf King growled at Lu Ming. Its eyes were filled with doubt and then a provocative light. Looks like strength is the only thing that matters. Lu Ming smiled faintly and pounced on the Crimson Blood Scale Wolf King. Roar! The Crimson Blood Scaled Wolf King also pounced forward. One man and one wolf engaged in a fierce battle. Half an hour later, when Lu Ming continued his journey, there were more than 5,000 Crimson Blood Scale Wolves behind him. This was the number of Crimson Blood Scale Wolves in the previous pack. The Crimson Blood Scale Wolf King had become Qiu Yu's mount. However, Lu Ming was still not satisfied. He continued his search on the plateau. There were countless Crimson Blood Scale Wolves in the plateau. They had lived here for countless years. In 3 days, Lu Ming found 5 packs of Crimson Blood Scale Wolves. The strongest pack of Crimson Blood Scale Wolves had more than 10,000 wolves. The weakest pack only had 2,000 wolves. Through the 2 Crimson Blood Scale Wolf Kings at the beginning, Lu Ming's strength, and Lu Ming and Xie Nianqing's Howling Moon Wolf King's aura, these Crimson Blood Scale Wolves were subdued one by one. Suddenly, the number of Crimson Blood Scale Wolves under Lu Ming's command exceeded 30,000, reaching a total of 32,000. At this point, Lu Ming had to stop. Deeper into the plateau, the beasts that appeared were too strong. Some of them were Class 8 LV4, and some were even Class 9 LV4. If Lu Ming and the rest continued, they would suffer great losses. However, 30,000 Crimson Blood Scale Wolves were enough. Immediately, Lu Ming brought the Crimson Blood Scale Wolves back to Full Moon City. Needless to say, it caused a tsunami-like commotion. The Mountain Suppression Army was envious, while the former Northern Battlefront Army that had sided with Lu Ming was ecstatic. Lu Ming was not stingy. He gave a few hundred Crimson Blood Scale Wolves to Ming Meng. As for the rest, Lu Ming selected 30,000 of the strongest men to form a Crimson Blood Scale Wolf cavalry. There were 31,000 of them. 1,000 of them were called the Crimson Blood Guards. They were the strongest and the most elite. They were Lu Ming's guards. The other 30,000 formed an army. Lu Ming temporarily handed them over to Hua Ying to manage and train. Hua Ying's mount was also changed to a Crimson Blood Scale Wolf King. It was easier to manage. Lu Ming was happy to be able to relax. Other than occasionally sparring with Autumn Moon, he spent most of his time cultivating. In the Temple of Paragon, Lu Ming sat cross-legged. He had just refined a few hundred spiritual herbs and cultivated the 10,000 spirit battle form to increase his physical strength. At this moment, he stopped cultivating. The 9 Dragons Heaven Stomping Steps is really difficult to cultivate. It's been so many days, but I still haven't mastered the first step. However, I feel that I've gained some insights recently. As long as I continue to comprehend, I'll master it sooner or later. There's also the third palm of the 3 Tao palms, the Heavenly Path palm. I don't have any clue about it either. If I can master it, it'll definitely be my trump card. Lu Ming pondered. Now, cultivating the true dragon of battle arts and comprehending the force was something that he had to do every day. Other than that, he had to cultivate various martial techniques. Every day, Lu Ming felt that he didn't have enough time. Thinking of this, Lu Ming moved his hand and a storage ring appeared. What's in the storage ring of a king? Looking at the storage ring, Lu Ming's eyes were filled with anticipation. That's right. This storage ring belonged to the martial king that Lu Ming had obtained in the Dongi tribe's ancestral ruins. Lu Ming had fought with Xian Yanqing for this storage ring. In the end, Xian Yanqing had chosen a small jade sword. There was a powerful inscription array on the storage ring. Lu Ming couldn't break it in the past. He could only slowly work on it. However, recently, Lu Ming felt that the inscription array on the storage ring was loosening. It was about to be broken. Today, I'll break it completely. Lu Ming's eyes flashed. Then, his hands glowed and powerful true qi surged toward the storage ring. The storage ring floated in the air, surrounded by a light screen. However, this light screen had become very thin. Under Lu Ming's true qi, it was on the verge of collapsing. Break for me! Lu Ming shouted. The true dragon of battle qi was constantly circulating. Like small true dragons, they rushed toward the light screen. Suddenly, the light screen emitted a bright light and expanded rapidly. When it had expanded to a few meters, it exploded with a poof. The inscription array on the storage ring was broken. Lu Ming was overjoyed. He grabbed the storage ring and immersed his mind into it. It's so big. His first impression was that the storage ring had a huge space. Lu Ming reckoned that even if he threw a mountain peak into it, it would be able to contain it. Then, Lu Ming saw a mountain of items in the storage ring. This is spiritual weapons, armor, elixirs, and secret manuals. Chapter 316. However, after looking through them, Lu Ming was shocked. Actually, these spiritual weapons, armors, elixirs, and secret manuals were not very high level. The key was that there were too many of them. Numerous battle spears and battle swords were piled up like a mountain, emitting a cold luster. The armors were piled up higher than a mountain. The elixirs and jade bottles were also piled up like a mountain. There were too many of them. There were too many of them. Lu Ming estimated that there were at least hundreds of thousands of sets of spiritual weapons and armors. This was simply an armory. Lu Ming picked up some of them and found that most of them were level 2 spiritual weapons. There were a few level 3 spiritual weapons. As for level 4 spiritual weapons, there were not many of them. These are soul-gathering elixirs and soul-breaking elixirs. When Lu Ming checked the elixirs, he was shocked at first. Then, he was excited and overjoyed. Soul-gathering elixirs could help martial soldiers and even martial masters improve their cultivation quickly. On the other hand, soul-breaking elixirs could help people break through to the next realm. Most of them were level 2 elixirs. They were not very useful for martial masters. However, there were too many of them. No wonder Lu Ming was so excited. These items could equip a huge army. How could there be so many low-level items in the storage ring of a martial king expert? Then, Lu Ming thought about it and understood. The Dongyi tribe had occupied a huge territory and established an empire. Now, most of the territory of the Burning Sun Empire, the Dark Moon Empire, and even the Blood Zhao Empire belonged to the Dongyi tribe. The Dongyi tribe was a real medium-sized empire. Later on, it was destroyed. The Dongyi ancestors' storage ring was filled with so many low-level spiritual weapons and elixirs. He must have wanted to build an army and rebuild the Dongyi Empire in the future. However, he died before he could do it. Now, all of them were taken advantage of by Lu Ming. Ha ha ha, I've searched high and low, only to find it by chance. Good, this is great. In this way, how big of an army can I build? The Crimson Blood Scaled Wolf Cavalry and the other soldiers will be upgraded. Their strength will definitely increase greatly. Lu Ming thought ecstatically. Thinking of this, Lu Ming immediately left the Temple of Paragon and gathered all his deputy generals and deputy generals. When Lu Ming used some empty storage rings to store these spirit armors and elixirs, and showed them to these deputy and deputy generals, these people were immediately petrified. All of them widened their eyes and opened their mouths. They stared at Lu Ming in disbelief, motionless. After a long while, they finally reacted, and their bodies trembled with excitement. "General, are these all yours?" Hua Ying gulped and said. "Of course. Did you think I snatched them? All right, give everyone a set of spiritual weapons and armor. Distribute these medicinal pills to increase their strength. Take note, focus on the 30,000 scarlet blood scaled wolves. I want them to break through to Martial Master as quickly as possible." Lu Ming instructed. His goal was to let the 30,000 crimson blood scaled wolves all reach the Martial Master realm. Only then could the crimson blood scaled wolves unleash their true strength. Of course, he only gave out 80,000 sets of spiritual weapons and armors. He would keep the rest for now. As for the secret manuals, they were some low-level martial techniques and battle formations. They were suitable for fighting on the battlefield, so they wouldn't be used in a short time. Lu Ming didn't give them out. Hua Ying and the others went out happily. Not long after, when Lu Ming's subordinates all changed into new equipment, everyone in the mountain-crushing army was shocked. It was too shocking. Lu Ming's subordinates were all equipped with level 2 spiritual weapons and armors. Level 2 spiritual weapons were on par with martial masters. When martial soldiers put on level 2 spiritual weapons and armors, their combat strength would definitely increase greatly. Their ability to protect themselves would also increase greatly. As for the elites, they all changed into level 3 spiritual weapons. It didn't take long for everyone to find out that Tianyun was the one who had given them the equipment. The mountain-crushing army's soldiers were so envious that their eyes turned red. They found that the soldiers who followed Lu Ming were treated too well. First, they had crimson blood-scaled wolves, and now, even their equipment was brand new. If it weren't for the military rules, they would have sworn allegiance to Tianyun. After Ming Meng found out, he smiled bitterly. From then on, every soldier under Lu Ming used the energy-gathering pill and the energy breakthrough pill to crazily increase their cultivation. During this time, the Yi Moon Empire seemed to have calmed down and didn't make any other moves. Time passed in a flash and half a month passed. In the past half a month, the strength of the crimson blood-scaled wolves had increased crazily. Originally, there were about 5,000 martial masters in the crimson blood-scaled wolves. As for the rest, most of them were at the 8th and 9th level of the martial warrior realm. In the past half a month, all of them had crazily improved. Some 9th level martial warriors had been stuck in the 9th level for a long time. At this time, with the help of the energy breakthrough pill, they broke through the bottleneck and rushed into the martial master realm. In half a month, more than 10,000 people rushed into the martial master realm. As for the others, almost every one of them had advanced by 1 or 2 levels. Pills left behind by a Martial King expert, even if the level wasn't high, were still extraordinary. The Eastern barbarian Martial King intended to build a strong army in a short period of time. The effects of the pills were naturally astonishing, exceeding Lu Ming's expectations. Great, if this continues, the 30,000 Crimson Blood-scaled wolves will all enter the Martial Master realm in less than a month. Lu Ming was overjoyed and distributed the pills without hesitation. The pills in the Martial King's storage ring were prepared for the army of 500,000, so there was an inexhaustible supply. At this time, news came from Ming Meng that the Yin Moon Empire had made a move recently. Sure enough, 3 days later, the Yin Moon Empire's 600,000 army attacked the Ghost Moon Saber sect's territory. For a time, the war continued. After Lu Ming received the news, he didn't hesitate and led the 30,000 Crimson Blood-scaled wolves to set off. It was time to test the strength of the Crimson Blood-scaled wolves. This battle shocked the entire world, shaking the Blazing Sun Empire and the Yin Moon Empire. The 30,000 Crimson Blood-scaled wolves led by Lu Ming were simply invincible and undefeatable. In this battle, the Crimson Blood-scaled wolves' first opponent was the Yin Moon Empire's Grey Wolf Legion. The 50,000 Grey Wolf Legion didn't have the slightest ability to fight back against the Crimson Blood-scaled wolves' attack. The 50,000 Grey Wolf Legion was almost completely annihilated. In this way, the Yin Moon Empire's Grey Wolf Legion was completely destroyed by Lu Ming, with 70,000 of them destroyed. Afterwards, the Yin Moon Empire sent out an extremely powerful legion, the Wild Lion Legion. The Wild Lion Legion was 100,000 strong, and their battle strength was even stronger than the Grey Wolf Legion. This battle was incomparably tragic, and shouts of killing filled the sky. In the end, the result was the same. The 30,000 Crimson Blood-scaled wolves defeated the 100,000 Wild Lion Legion in one fell swoop. The 100,000 Wild Lion Legion was almost completely wiped out.